Dean Arnold.
Okay, fading down the music. This is the Dean Arnold podcast. I'm Dean Arnold. I'm running for Congress. And we have a daily podcast, and we try to have a good time where I try to bring sanity to an insane world. One of the campaign slogans. Vote for me on November 3rd. Give to my campaign, DeanArnoldForCongress.com. Need some money. Haven't got any donations off my website yet. Why don't you be the first one? I can pretend like I'm getting all kinds of money everywhere, but I'm not going to pretend. I'm going to be your honest candidate. So come on, bring in the money. Okay, let's see. I need to look at my little list of things that I have to say at the beginning here. Today is June 9th. So we're doing our June 9th show. That is correct. And comments and questions are welcome. I didn't announce the time today. It's a little later than I've been doing it. And I guess the times will change as when we actually do it. But yeah, go ahead and leave comments or questions if you can. And I'll try to take those. I'll check right now. Nothing yet, but that's okay. Today's show is going to be about prepping. Are you a prepper? There's a lot of preppers out there. I'm a prepper. Are you a prepper? I'm a prepper. He's a prepper. I'm just a little bit of a prepper, and I'll explain that. That's one of the key points I'm going to make in today's podcast. But first, let's look at the news today. Not Iran, not Ukraine, not Donald Trump. The real news, the scripture on the church calendar and the saint of the day on the church calendar. So let's get going with that. Ooh, I got the scripture right there ready for us. The first scripture is from Romans 4 through 12. I'm not going to read it. Now to him who works, the wages are not counted, but as grace, but as debt. He go on down here. Is it for the circumcised only or also for the uncircumcised? And Paul goes into a whole thing about how it's for everybody, not just the circumcised. A lot of talk about circumcision. Well, I'm not going to talk about this passage today. I'm just going to bring up this one point. Circumcision. What the heck? I mean, when you step back from it for a minute, that's some really weird stuff. Chopping off the tip of a tool. It just doesn't, it's just kind of comes out of nowhere in the Bible. You're just kind of moving along, and next thing you know, Abraham needs to circumcise his son. He needs to chop off some skin on the tip of his penis. What the heck? Well, I really don't know the answer. I'm just going to tell you the best answer that I've come up with is that it's a statement of faith. If all his hopes are in his progeny, covering the earth, fulfilling the promise that God gave him, that it'll be like his descendants will be like the sand of the sea and the stars in the sky. So all his hopes are in that fact. And in the ancient world, and really most of the world still today, they're really into having children and respecting their ancestors. And you'll see little statues of phalluses and stuff. So it's kind of a fertility worship, ancestral worship kind of thing. But if that's where your mind is, then yeah, chopping off your son's part of his penis is you're messing with all that. That's an act of faith. It's like, even though I'm doing this, I still believe that you're going to bless me in this certain kind of way. That's the best I've come up with. In comments and questions, if somebody's got a better answer to the question, please let me know what it is, because it's kind of a weird thing. You got to admit. You just got to admit. All right, let's see if we can bring this back. Yeah, we sure did. Let's see if we can change it to the next scripture of the day, which is Matthew. Yes, we can. Matthew 7:15 through 21 is the gospel for the day. I'm going to read this one. Beware of false prophets who come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly they are ravenous wolves. You will know them by their fruits. Do men gather grapes from thorn bushes or figs from thistles? Even so, every good tree bears good fruit, but a bad tree bears bad fruit. A good tree cannot bear bad fruit, nor can a bad tree bear good fruit. Every tree that does not bear good fruit is cut down and thrown into the fire. Therefore, by their fruits you will know them. Not everyone who says to me, Lord, Lord, will enter the kingdom of heaven, but he who does the will of my Father in heaven. All right, let's just talk about this a little bit in the sense that, this is a great verse for discernment. I'm going to do a podcast at some point on how to find the right sources for news. Because if you're trying to figure out what's going on in the world and want to know the news, it really just comes down to sources. What sources are you going to get your news? Do you trust these people? Why do you trust these people that are bringing it to you? If you think it's some unnamed entity, up there, they are bringing it to you, well, you're in serious trouble. But it's always a few people. If you don't know who those people are, you're not going to get very far. But by your fruits, you will know them. So part of the discernment process is to look at these people who are bringing you information, whether it's prophets or preachers or news people or whatever. Are they godly? Do they have nice families? Do they have a track record of evil, criminality? Do they have a multi-generational pattern of being involved in the CIA? That sort of thing. These are all questions you want to ask to see if you're discerning the situation correctly. And it's not the only thing, but it's one of them. And speaking of the fact it's not the only thing, sure, there could be exceptions to this in a sense where Satan poses as an angel of light, or in geopolitical circles sometimes it's called limited hangout, where someone poses to be a person of good repute and reveals part of the problem so that the other part of the problem gets ignored, which is the real part of the problem they don't really want you to know. So that does happen at times, but I think in general, you can judge a tree by its fruits. And this is a good person, if this is a godly person, if what they're doing accomplishes godly aims. I got a friend who doesn't like Tucker Carlson, thinks that he's a CIA plant. Well, Tucker Carlson is exposing a lot of truth right now and really bringing out some good stuff, and just doesn't seem like something the devil would do to me. Just doesn't. And there's a lot of places where I go in terms of trying to figure out what's true and false by looking at that. Does the devil really want to bring that much truth to the world and to people? Not really. Anyway, Matthew 7. Let's move now to the saint of the day. How shall we do it? I think we'll do this. I think we will copy and we will paste. I think it's going to work. Yeah, there it is. All right, 5 nuns beheaded in Persia, martyrs Thecla, Mariamne, Martha, Mary, and Anatha. Okay, so this is around 330 AD. There was this priest named Paul who was living in this village called Aza. He was wealthy and he was a lover of money, and he had with him 5 women. These 5 women had consecrated their virginity to God. Thecla, Mariamne, Martha, Maria, Anatha. They were adorned with the splendors of virtues. But the greedy man who was with them, he would chant the psalms with them, but he would keep their money for himself. They entrusted all their money with Father Paul. When the people in Persia, where they were living, learned that the priest Paul was rich, the Persians threatened to kill him and the 5 virgins if he did not deny Christ and give him some of his treasure. Well, what did Paul do? He denied Christ. All the holy virgins said they would rather suffer torture and death than deny Christ. So Paul beheaded the women. Oh, this is a great guy. He's going to have a splendid time on the day of judgment. He did not enjoy his wealth for very long. However, the Persians drowned him the following evening in order to obtain all the money. the holy virgins received their incorruptible crowns of glory from Christ in the year 346. So, wow, another martyr story, another saint story. These 5 nuns, man, way to go, women! Wow, these are stories, people we can aspire to be like, and I hope I have their courage and boldness and strength if such a day ever comes to me. Let's talk about prepping. Okay, prepping. Y'all know what prepping is, right? Prepping is preparing for the day of reckoning, preparing for nuclear holocaust, preparing for everything collapsing, preparing for financial meltdown, preparing for rioting everywhere and things going to hell in a handbasket. I'm a prepper. I spend about 10% of my time, energy, and efforts on it. I'll get to that in a second. Let me first say, does this conflict a little bit with many of the podcasts I've already done where I say, quit worrying about the future and quit worrying about everything going to hell and the world ending? Not quite, because I'm really saying that I don't think the world is ending. I don't think that Jesus is about to return. I think we got a long way to go, and we're in the church age, I guess you could say that. We're in the time where Christ is discipling the nations. He's sending us out to disciple the nations. The purpose of history is to disciple the nations, and we'll be doing that for a while. I think it'll be another 100,000 of years. So I don't think the end is anywhere near soon, and so I've talked about that quite a bit. But I do think there may very possibly be a day of reckoning, or days of reckoning. I mean, we're $39 trillion in debt. There's no way to get out of it. So that's going to happen. Will it happen with a whimper or with a bang? We don't know. Nuclear holocaust, nuclear exchange anyway. Could that happen? Very possibly. More likely now than ever. Could we survive it? Some say yes, some say no. You know, the billionaires, they got their bunkers and underground cities, and they might last a while. Who knows? Elon's trying to head to Mars to evade it. He's the ultimate prepper, is he not? So it could happen. Rioting in the streets because the country's imploded. Sure. Could happen. Hey, a meteor or something weird like that could happen to cause it. God might happen, cause it to happen supernaturally. Are you prepared for it? Should you be prepared for it? And my answer to you is yes. But I have what I call the 10% rule. Spend about 10% on prepping. 10% of your money, 10% of your time, 10% of your emotions, and think time on prepping. Otherwise, move on with life, because it might not happen. I have the same rule for my conspiracy theorist friends. I'm obviously a conspiracy theorist, but I'm talking about the ones that are just so deep into it, they can't come up for air. They can't live a life. You know, all they're talking about is this some strange, deep black hole. And, it's all going to hell. And it's just like, dude, you can't think about that all the time. 10% rule for you. Spend 10% talking about conspiracy theory and deep, dark stuff and how a satanic cabal is ruling the earth. Okay. But spend 90% of your time talking about Jesus, advancing the kingdom, loving your neighbor, building things, constructing things, being productive. 10% rule. So I have that with prepping, but I do prep. So let's talk about prepping itself. Got a little list here of things, but okay. Gold and silver, heck yeah. I've got a little, not as much as I'd like. But if the currency collapses, you'll probably be able to get some value out of gold and silver coins. So I recommend them. By the way, there's something called junk silver, which is a pretty cool thing. I used to have a bunch, and I don't have any right now. I'd like to get some more. It's silver dimes and quarters. These are made like before 1965 or some year like that, where they made the dimes and the quarters actually out of silver. And so like a one of those dimes made out of silver now will get you like $4, maybe more, and a quarter will get you like $20 or something. But it's a pretty good little tool to get some value out there. There's an old phrase: you can't eat gold and silver. So you got to have more than gold and silver, but that's a good one. Bitcoin, yeah, get you some Bitcoin. I've had some Bitcoin in the past. I got a little now. I wish I had more. I've always done Bitcoin for an investment. It just kept going up in value. That I bought some and sold some and did well, and I got some more. Hadn't done as well. And will Bitcoin be a solution in times of trouble? It certainly seems like it could, but certainly it possibly could not for various reasons. By the way, yeah, well, I'll get to that later. You need obvious things as a prepper. You need tools. You need a first aid kit. You need just a lot of household items that everybody used to have, because everybody used to have a household. But now when you live in apartments and condos and these kind of things, so you need to look at that. Okay, here's a weird one. Water. Water is very important. One of the things that's very possible is just that things will go to hell in a handbasket, and it'll be rioting in the streets and be crazy, and nothing will be open, and everybody's going to sit around and starve. What do they say? 9 meals before everybody goes crazy. So you need to be able to survive 9 meals, and more like 2 or 3 weeks, I would say. You need to have enough food, dry food or solutions, canned food, or whatever, that you can live for 3 weeks. You need to have enough water. They've got these big old jugs, like, are they 5-gallon or 20-gallon jugs or something in the grocery store? I got a few of those. Having a well's really the ultimate thing. We'll get to that in a minute. But we don't have a well. And if the water goes off, you need to have a solution for water. So that's important. You need to have a few extra gallons of gas around, because if the gas stations go down, which they can, you might need a few gallons just to get to grandma's house, or wherever it is you're trying to go, your friend who's a homesteader. Let's see here. Seeds. If you're going to try to plant a garden for the next year, probably a good idea. I tried to plant a garden once. I was terrible. Oh, well. But some of you have a green thumb. Okay, here's a little trick that I keep. Once in a while, I'll go to the liquor store and I'll buy a pint or a half pint of Jack Daniels. And I've got a few of them around, but that's actually a good little piece of currency if things are going crazy. You got to get past a guard, or you need to, give somebody a little favor in order to get something done. Maybe nobody's taking money, but they'll take a pint of Jack. So that's worth thinking about. I didn't spend a lot of time getting really into the nitty gritty of the list of things you need to do as a prepper, but just use common sense. Spend 10% of your money, no more. Spend 10% of your time and efforts and emotions, and no more. Okay, another thing we really need to think about is radiation, because the most likely scenario is there's going to be some sort of nuclear exchange. And it's not the nuclear exchange that kills most people. It's the radiation from the nuclear exchange that has killed most people and is predicted to kill most people. I've read books on it and various ways to deal with it. Doesn't sound fun, I'll tell you that. But bomb goes off. 20 minutes later, the bomb kills like people in a 5-mile radius, and then the radiation goes up in the sky, and it comes back down in about 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and it kills like people within an hour. And so you got to avoid that acid rain, or whatever you want to call it. You can't see it. That's fun, but it like burns and kills you. And if you breathe it, you're done. You don't want to be anywhere near it. Go in the house. Okay, sure. But unfortunately, regular old walls and drywall and all that won't stop it. If your house is made of brick, you have a fighting man's chance. Mine's not. I've bought a bunch of plastic sheets, 100 yards of plastic sheet, to nail around the windows and this, that, and the other, and maybe I'll have a chance. It's worth looking at. Extra sets of clothes, because if all this radiation gets on you, got to be able to take the clothes off, put on a new set of clothes. I bought a little $40 thing that can detect whether you have radiation near you or not. So that's worth looking at. So yeah, it's kind of grim. But you can read about it, Google it, and do what you need to do. But that's because that's a likely scenario. It's just something you have to prepare for. Probably if that happened, you need to like stay in your safe spot for like 3 or 4 days before you come out. And the hardest thing is people aren't going to do that. They're gonna want to go out, and that'll be tough. Then you're going to have other people that are running around in agony, and maybe they're coming banging on your door, and if they come in, they'll kill everybody, and you got a moral dilemma. So that should be fun. Got to deal with that. Here's an interesting thing. There's a lot of people, and I'm going to say particularly women. I hope I don't get in trouble for that. But there's because men like to think this way, preferring and surviving and all that kind of stuff. But there's a lot of people who will just say, if it gets to that, I'd just rather die. I hear that a lot. And I mean, that's got merit. I get that. But you got to rise above that, man up and say, yeah, we'd all rather die in a lot of different situations, but that's really not the option that's been given us. We need to try to find a way to survive, and we need to prepare for it. 10%. I'm not saying prepare for it all the time and think about it all the time and know anything else, but you need to give it a little bit of a preparation, and you might survive it. Don't just lay down and be dead. All right, I got one more scripture verse for you for this topic. I think I've talked about everything on my list. Yeah. Where do we go? Can we go here? Yeah. And we do this. Yeah. And we come and we do. Yeah, baby. Here we go. Proverbs chapter 27. This is a great little passage. We're going to end with this. We're still lit. Oliva 5 for those of you who are interested. Proverbs chapter 27. This is written by Solomon. Solomon was a prepper. Solomon the prepper. And Solomon was a king, which makes this extra fascinating. But anyway, let's read this passage. I'm going to skip verse 25. Be sure you know the condition of your flocks. Give careful attention to your herds, for riches do not endure forever. And a crown, Solomon was king, and a crown is not secure for all generations. Skip 25 to 26. The lambs will provide you with clothing, and the goats with the price of a field. You will have plenty of goat's milk to feed your family and to nourish your female servants. Okay, so there we go. Proverbs 27, Solomon the prepper. This is where the homesteaders are getting it right. They're trying to get themselves some land and some goats and some cows and some sheep, and planting food and gardens, and have a well on the property. That's a biggie. So the prepper, the homesteaders are getting it right and following Solomon's advice here. Riches don't last forever, and the crown is not secure for all generations. Basically, the crown is the government. The government is not always secure. The government might collapse, and now everything's crazy. But if you're a homesteader and you got some goats or whatever animals might be in play, then you got some milk. Maybe you got some food. If you're going to sacrifice a couple of those goats, butcher them is what I'm saying. But you're going to have some milk. And you're going to have some this, that, and the other. You'll have some. If you have sheep, you're going to have a way to have clothing. not just for you, but for your servant girls, female servants is what he says here. It's basically saying everybody else that's around, whether it's employees or neighbors, or whatever, you're going to have a nice supply here for everybody that needs it. So you people that are homesteading, you just might be right on it, and we might all need you if it comes to that. So that's a good thing. Nice job, Solomon, on goat prepping. So let's look for comments. We got one. Very cool podcast, says Alec. I appreciate that. That's all we got, but that's good enough. I'm Dean Arnold. I'm running for Congress. Vote for me on November 3rd. Give to my campaign, deanarnoldforcongress.com. Share this podcast, and your platform is likely to get like another 30 to 60 second form of this podcast. And if you get that, share that. Today is June 9th. I'm bringing sanity to an insane world. And we are having a good time with the daily podcast. I think I'm done. So it is time to click over here and go to the background music. And